It was very clear that in preseason, the Toronto Raptors had a specific problem with their rotation. This problem has spilled over into the regular season and has become very, very telling to Raptors fans. So in this video, we reveal what that problem is and show how Masai Ujiri and the Raptors can get it fixed. Let's get into it. Welcome NBA and Raptors fans. This is Amateur Hour Sports, your source for everything Raptors related. We do Raptors news coverage, mock trade breakdowns, and we provide analysis in videos just like this. So if you like the Toronto Raptors and you enjoy the content in this sort of video style, make sure you're subscribed to Amateur Sports for 4+ Raptors videos every single week, and you can help us on a road to 8,000 subscribers. We're getting very close to 7,500. Let's try to get 7,500 today, and you can help us get there. But let's get down to business for today's video, talking about a huge problem that has plagued the Toronto Raptors from the start of this season and also from preseason, and it was very noticeable from that preseason, and the problem has still not been addressed. So the problem that we need to talk about is the rotation as it comes to our bigs. The Raptors, the bigs so far this season, some have been underwhelming, some have been a little bit better than expected, but I think that it is a problem for this team, and one specific part about it is a big problem. So right now, the bigs that we're working with are Precious Achiuwa, sometimes starting. I would say if we're all healthy, probably not starting, but I started most of the games this season. You've got Khem Birch and Chris Boucher also coming off of the bench. In preseason, we also had Freddie Gillespie, but for very good reason, Freddie Gillespie was waived from the team. So we're rocking with 3 bigs right now. We really only play ever Precious Achiuwa or Khem Birch in the center positions when they're on the court. Chris Boucher is almost always the power forward in the lineup on the floor for the Raptors. But so far this season, I think that Precious Achiuwa has definitely underwhelmed, and Chris Boucher has been utterly shocking in how bad his performances have been, especially in contrast to what he did last season. Khem Birch has been a lot better this season, and there are some little things about Khem Birch's game that make him so much better than the previous season, despite his stats and his box score numbers not being quite up to last season. So what we're going to do in the video, we're going to talk about the biggest problem with these 3 bigs, then we're going to individually assess the performances so far this season, what they could work on, and what they have done well, if they have done anything well. So the biggest problem for me is the fact that the Raptors don't have a reliable rim protector, and I think that that is a problem that has stumped our defense a little bit in some of the games this season. The Raptors have been giving up, I think, a little bit too many open threes for my liking, and that was especially apparent against Detroit Pistons and earlier in the week against the Boston Celtics. Other teams are exposing the fact that we typically leave the weak side corner 3 a little bit too open. Sometimes we're late in rotation, but also teams can expose that with certain play sets to free up that shot. Again, that was especially apparent against the Detroit Pistons rather infuriatingly. And I think a part of the reason why we leave the three-pointer a little bit exposed sometimes is because we're too focused on defending the paint. But I think if we had a true rim protector on the inside, that would ease a lot of the problems for the other 4 players in the court who could play a little bit more aggressively on the perimeter, not give up as many of those 3-point opportunities. And the fact is, even when we are kind of collapsing the paint, other teams can expose us on the inside, because especially against the Pistons, that's the most recent game, and it was a lot of the problems that we have in that game. Isaiah Stewart, who really hasn't been up to any great numbers this season, put up 20 points against us. He's not even that big, but he was bullying us on the inside. The lack of a rim protector is letting teams kind of bail themselves out of bad possessions, and also it bails them out in terms of if they do get a miss, they often get a lot of offensive rebounds. But the Raptors have been great in terms of the opposition defensive rebound categories, but some games where the Raptors really aren't getting their stops, when it's just really not going their way, when they finally do achieve that stop that they've been craving, they can't get the rebound, and the other team grabs an offensive rebound, can get a putback, or can reset the possession and likely get a bucket in the second chance point. So a rim protector would definitely help this team. The 3 guys I'm going to mention, 2 of them have definitely not been up to scratch. And I think that a true big on this team would allow us to do a little bit more offensively, because it would allow us that big who can kind of bail us out of those tough situations, who can get us a make on the inside, kind of like what Serge Ibaka did for the Raptors. He came in off the bench and was sometimes that presence we needed to just get us a couple easy buckets to get us going. I'm all for this positionless game that the Toronto Raptors are trying to create here, but I've been saying all season and in preseason that you need to have another option coming off of the bench. You need to have a different option in some games when you actually need proper rebounding and proper rim protection, like we saw against the Celtics when Robert Williams and Al Horford dominated us on the glass, especially the offensive glass. I think that you need to have an option on the bench who can combat that. And in preseason, I was preaching for this team to go grab Isaiah Hartenstein, somebody who could do that, be that little bit of a presence in the paint, but also a very good passing big man. Now, that's all water under the bridge because he signed with the Los Angeles Clippers and actually started the season quite well for that team. But let's assess individually why it's not really working in the big department for the Raptors as it comes to especially Boucher and Achua. So starting with Chris Boucher, I don't know what is going on with Chris Boucher this season. So far, he has been an absolute shell of what he was in the previous season. In 2020-21, Chris Boucher was averaging 13.6 points per game, 6.7 rebounds on 51% shooting from the field. That was accompanied by a lovely 38% shooting from three, which showcased Chris Boucher to be a very key member of this Raptors team, especially as a scoring threat off the bench, something that we lacked last season and continue to lack this season because he's not providing that scoring for us. This season, in less minutes, obviously, 5.4 points per game, 3.5 rebounds on 37% shooting from the field, and about 18% shooting from three. So his minutes are down, but his minutes are down because he's playing very poorly. If he wasn't playing so poorly, then he would get more minutes. And the offensive game that was last season that he had was very good. And it hit a lot of the fragilities that he actually had on defense. Because as it came to his defensive game, when he had to go to the perimeter, often he would get exposed. What kind of made up for this, again, is the fact that he put up some great numbers offensively, but also he blocked a lot of shots. He blocked a lot of three-pointers. If I'm not mistaken, he led the NBA in blocked three-pointers either for the whole season or for a certain period of time during the season. That's cool. That looked really cool on some highlights, but also that led to Chris Boucher getting absolutely blown by on the outside far too many times. And on the inside, I thought he was decent, but overall, he just isn't really a great defender. His footwork isn't really there, and his basketball IQ as it comes to positioning on defense just isn't really there for Chris Boucher. All of these things have been highlighted even further this season because of his inability to play offense. Chris Boucher really does not give the Raptors any sort of positive impact every time he steps on the court. I don't really understand why we even bother to put him in the game at all anytime this season. The only game he showed anything was that Philadelphia 76ers game where he still struggled on defense. Offensively, all Chris Boucher really wants to do is shoot threes. And right now, he's not hitting his threes, as we saw with this three-point percentage. When he wants to get to the rim in transition, I mean, he can sometimes do that. Sure, it looks cool when he dunks it, but defensively is where he is an absolute disaster. Chris Boucher, I don't think has gotten a single stop on the perimeter this season. I mean, I'm sure he has. It certainly feels like he doesn't. But his positioning is just, I don't even understand what he's doing sometimes. Like, he just runs onto the perimeter and gets blown by easily. Then he's caught in a rotation. He's got to rotate to a different player and just doesn't know where he needs to be. He is absolutely useless for this team. There's not one thing you can tell me Chris Boucher does well that positively impacts the Raptors. When Yuta Watanabe is back from injury, oh, it can't come soon enough. I don't think Chris Boucher is really going to get any minutes for this team, and I think that for good reason. He just simply offers the Raptors nothing on offense because he can't hit his threes, and defensively, he's an absolute disaster. Now, moving to Precious Achiuwa, where Precious Achiuwa, after a great start to preseason, has faded off rather quickly, and I don't really understand how he's fallen off so much. The biggest thing for Precious Achiuwa is he needs to settle down. Defensively and from the rebounding standpoint, he's quite good. I'm okay with what he brings defensively, especially the fact that he can go to the outside and provide some good defense there. Offense is where we have a problem with Precious Achiuwa. When he hauls in a rebound or he's moving in a fast break situation, he often just kind of loses control and goes as fast as he can. That leads to a lot of turnovers because he has a very distinct inability to find the open man. There was one play in transition against the Celtics where he got a steal and he had Simi Hyluk wide open for a layup and just inexplicably didn't pass him the ball. And there were some certain things against the 76ers where he had an open man in transition, doesn't find him, sometimes goes out of control to the rim where that leads to a lot of charges, and it also leads to a lot of bad misses for Achiuwa. The field goal percentages have not been there. For some reason, his confidence is shot from his jump shot, and on the interior, I mean, dare I say, Aaron Baines-esque sometimes, but it is. It's that sort of not looking at the rim, just kind of throw it up and hope sometimes. You just got to get a little bit more focused and a little bit more calm and in rhythm with the Raptors. And I think Precious Achiuwa has a brighter future. Chris Boucher is already pretty old as it comes to developing. Precious Achiuwa is only 22 years old. I'm willing to be patient with Precious Achiuwa. Khem Birch is a revelation this season. His box score stats, if you're a box score Andy, you might think Khem Birch isn't really affecting the game, but his plus minuses have typically been very good. And also his influence on the game, his ability to kind of steer the offense is great. Gets out of the way of other players, and he influences winning plays. The reason Khem Birch has kind of added this evolution to this game, because last season, near the end of the season, Khem Birch was wondering, am I going to even get an NBA contract at the end of the season? But he was playing very well for the Raptors, putting up great numbers. It seemed like he was averaging 14 and 11 for the Raptors on very good shooting. But this season, those numbers have dropped because he's now more focused on winning. He signed his contract. He has his contract locked in. He has his money locked in with the Raptors. He doesn't need to focus on looking good to people who are going to offer him contracts. His focus is on winning basketball games, and that is exactly what he is doing with the Raptors right now. But Khem Birch, I said all through the summer, isn't quite that starting big man caliber player. Right now, he's playing like a very, very good backup, but that's kind of what he is. The Raptors really lack that true starting center, and they really lack that true presence on the interior. I'm willing to sacrifice that because we run with the small ball sometimes anyway. And I think that Achua and Birch together can kind of take on that center role, even though we don't have a true star with the team. What we need to see different is an actual presenceful big man, an actual presence on the interior, especially on the defensive end. That is something that we are absolutely lacking. And even though we don't need to use them consistently in our rotations, in the way we play, where, you know, you want anybody to guard anybody on the other team, it is necessary for this team to have that ability to go to a true big on the bench to help defend the rim. If I had to guess, this is not a trade the Raptors are going to make, but I do think that we need to consider going for a big man like that. You know, if you want to trade Dragic, Dwight Powell may be available, Moses Brown may be available, just a couple names there. And there are plenty of other names that Masai Ujiri should definitely consider trading for as we progress through the season. Take a look. Next game, just have a look at what I'm talking about and see for yourself. But that is it for me for today. Let me know your thoughts and opinions on this. Should the Raptors go and trade for a big man? And which big man should they trade for? I want to hear everything in the comments down below, because that is it for me for today. Thanks so much for watching this video. Please give a like if you did enjoy. It goes a long way to supporting the channel, helping us get some new viewers. Also shows that you enjoy the videos and you want to see more of them. Plus, if you do want to see more, you can subscribe to the channel as well. On a road to 8,000 subscribers. Stay up to date with those 4+ Raptors videos we put out every single week. This is my vlog channel. Check out my vlog at the most recent Raptors 905 game, and also check out a post-game show for every single Raptors game, the immediate reaction in this channel down here. We'll see you again next time for another video.